Stream is starting. Let's check it out, see if it's all okay. Going to HD. Make sure that it's all right. Yeah, not too bad. Background's a little overblown, but we're not too bad. As the sun sets, it's gonna get better probably. So hey everyone, we're starting out in a few seconds, checking out if everything is okay, and here we go. So just making sure that everybody is okay. Official VHF, UHF, Chan. This is the live show from the other channel. And better be early, Richard, like that. If something is wrong, got a few minutes to fix the problems, which is always better. So that's why I decided to start about 2 minutes early, just to make sure everything is all right, which seems to be all right, anyways. So hey everyone, it is a little. I decided to do a show from outside because of the very beautiful day, and we know when we get to this time of year, usually these beautiful days, we don't have too many of them yet left. Even starting next week, we're gonna have our first frost. Probably Monday night into Tuesday, we're going to have the first frost of the season. So winter is coming our way, and we are seeing few signs. But this week was incredible. We had like 20 plus degrees all week, sunshine, amazing weather. I was this close to going to Perry Island yesterday, but then had too many things to do. And I thought, okay, Perry Island, or work on the stuff that I need to complete. So basically, just gonna, work on the thing that I need, and we'll see. For Perry Island, it doesn't matter. We're still gonna have some days where, you just wear a little jacket or a good sweater, and I'll still have some time for Perry Island before the bad weather sets in. So. Hey everyone, welcome. This is the Wideband live YouTube show, or Hangout. This show is about radio, and it's about every aspect of radio. We have our shortwave Hangout, where it's shortwave radio mainly. We have tuning the bands, where we are tuning the radios. Today we're going to talk about any aspect of the spectrum of receivers of radio. Anything goes here. From way down the basement and the long wave band all to the very, very high frequencies. And hopefully we're going to have some fun with our show today. So, hello Richard Cook, Jerry, PLF, SWL John. What do we have? We have Radioactive. Nice to have you on board. Hello Delta. Hello Stephen Mail. What else do we have that I haven't seen maybe? Okay, let's check it out here on the YouTube chat. We have Nick Anecdotes. Hello. He's in Romania. Danny Shortwave and Radio DX from Yonkers, New York. Nice to have you on board. Neil Toombs. Nice to have you on board. What do we have? And yep, an outside broadcast, Neil. I thought, it's so beautiful. I was a little scared because it's kind of windy a little bit. And I was like, is it going to be too windy? I'm not sure. What the hell? We're going to do it outside. And whatever happens if, Hurricane Matthew arrives while I'm doing the show, it's all right. No, it's going to stay really far from Montreal. And I hope you guys and those that are in Florida in that area, I hope everybody's all right. The storm looks pretty strong and pretty amazing. Just before the show started, I looked at the frequencies. WRMI seems to be back I've heard that 93.95 is on. 15.770 seems to be on. So hopefully everything's all right. Neil says he was hearing some comms on the Hurricane Nets 14.325. I did connect, I was outside working. It was so beautiful that I was working from outside, and I left the radio on, and I did leave my receiver on 14.325 for most of late morning, early afternoon, and did hear a few things, but not a lot. Propagation didn't seem to be good for that path over there. What else do we have? Thank you, Jerry. Looking and sounding good. Mad Boy, nice to have you on board also. Pretty cool. And nice, Richard. You'll have the World Radio TV Handbook 2016. That's cool. That's cool. You'll enjoy it. It's a nice, it's a nice reference. For what it is well done, and it's very, very good. And it's a very good reference to keep, and also has a lot of updated emails and address of stations. Sometimes you're looking for the email or the postal address of a shortwave station, and you just can't find it. And all of that information is in the World Radio TV Handbook, so that's pretty cool for that. Okay. And by the way, Jerry, I've been looking at your hurricane sites that you've sent me through email, and also one that maybe you haven't seen, one that I've watched for so many years, hurricanecity.com, and the guy is like a very serious guy into the hurricanes and stuff, and he has like his own weather broadcast and his own observations when there's a hurricane nearby. He has like a live broadcast where he talks about the hurricane, the track of the hurricane, and everything. And that's one that I've been following for so many years. It's a well done website, and the guy kind of devotes his life to just monitoring the weather. And when there's no hurricanes, he actually kind of transforms himself into checking out the weather. The weather for heavy thunderstorms and tornadoes and stuff. So it's pretty interesting about that. So I hope everybody's all right in the hurricane side, because it seems like it's a pretty strong one. I was looking at the news a little earlier, and they said in Haiti they had they're close to 1,000 deaths. But over there the infrastructure and the houses are just so flimsy that it's kind of easy to blow it away. And so it's always, when it crosses that country, which is basically the poorest country in the Americas, it is kind of always a big, big deal. People have no shelter, no places to go. And I was listening to, on my internet radio, I went through a few Florida stations that were broadcasting. And basically, it's something always incredible, and the power of nature. It shows you that nature is much more powerful than man. Cheers with my Boreal, which is the 3 left over. I had 3 the other time on the hangout. These were I have 3 left over. I didn't even touch the rest of the 6-pack. So 3 that are left over. Yeah, PLF, WRMI, you mean, not WHRI. What happened is at around 6 a.m., 5 or 6 a.m. this morning, power went off. WRMI got knocked off the grid. The only frequency that was still working is 6855 because it's very low power. The generators were able to give the power for that frequency, but it's very local because it was very low power. And now they seem to be back. I've checked, 93.95 seems to be there, 15.770. I don't know if you guys can tune around a little bit on the brother stair frequencies and the different WRMI frequencies, just to see if all seems to be back. But I saw a tweet this morning saying that the winds were pretty high. So I guess the power must be back in that vicinity, as WRMI is back online. Jerry's saying that 7268 lower sideband right now has a lot of activity. I'm gonna tune it on my little, I just, for the hang of it, I brought my trusty little Texan PL 680 for outside for listening. Apart from that, I've got my, of course, Icon, my CR20. I've got my trunking receiver, the Radio Shack Pro 92, and of course, I've actually set up, just to show you guys, I've set up the dongle with the adapter to put on my Android phone if I ever want to do something with that. So, because I have a question related to that, by the way. So today is another questions and answer. Because what happened is the last time I had a questions and answer, it seems like a lot of people suddenly realized, hey, you can ask this guy questions. So I got like 3 times more emails than usually, because it seems that it just, people, either I've created more questions, or people just noticed, hey, this guy's going to answer my radio questions. So why not send an email? So I thought, okay, another questions and answer, and in the next Wideband, we'll go back to kind of regular programming of different subjects of radio. So pretty cool. So Radioactive as the noontime net. Yeah, well, I'm a little far too. 7268 seems to be rather dead here. For me, I'll try 14325 just in case. But for now, and I don't have much of an antenna, just the telescopic one, so not sure. Yeah, the R20 is here, Jerry. It's here. It's always here. This is like, it never, this radio, it never leaves my sight. If I go somewhere, I'm always bringing the R20 with me. This is the #1 radio that I bring along everywhere. So, pretty cool. And hope everybody's going to have fun. Hello, Mike Lee. Nice to have you on board. And yeah, I did, like Mike Lee sent a sound clip of 9600 kilohertz with a Morse code signal in the background. It's there now, he says, while CRI is using the frequency. So the Morse code is every now and then, but not all the time. So kind of interesting. Neil Toombs says 7268 loud and clear. Mad Radio DXer, nice to have you on board from Southampton. What else do we have? So hey everyone. Okay, I'm just gonna, if you guys hear the BBC interval signal on my phone, that's my new ringtone, as people are not noticing that I am in a live show apparently. So okay, so we have questions today, and of course if you guys have any questions, comments, or anything, don't hesitate to yeah, it's possible that you guys are hearing something. Also, there's a lot of broadcasts on the 40-meter band, and basically it's possible that you're hearing an international broadcast station also, depending on where you're located. And if you're in the west part of North America, well, chances you'll hear 7268 out of Florida is kind of small because of the daylight path among there. So hello Mute Zone, and yes, I was just thinking, but I didn't see you on the other chat, so I said, hey, Mad Radio DXer. Hello Milcon 1970, and nice to have you on board. And yes, we are Radio Nets. And yes, I did get the recording on Dropbox, Jerry. I downloaded on my PC. So pretty cool. Pretty cool, I gotta say that. It's very nice. I've also checked your eBay stuff that you've sent me. Very interesting stuff. If I had a lot of money, I'd be buying so many stuff, so many things. Just I can tell you. So okay, we'll go into a little bit of questions here. A little bit questions. Okay, first question, which is a interesting one. So, and I got to say, oh.
The people that you need to keep up with where they are, and make sure that everybody is.
This is Hurricane Net 14325. I'm hearing something.
Just saying, hi there, thank you. Good talking to you. You've got a great signal in West Virginia, and I'm glad to talk to you.
So interesting to see that. I do hear a little bit of communications from the Hurricane Net on 14325. So yeah, like you say, Jared, so much stuff to buy. I have to be a millionaire, and if I'd be a millionaire, I'd be not. I wouldn't be in my house with radios. I'd be in my radios. That would be, the house would be in the radios, and not the radios in the house, probably. So, okay, the first question is interesting because it goes to show that we all have different interests. And Robert in Pennsylvania sent me an email, says, okay, I was watching your show, and it came to me that if the only thing that I like to listen to is law enforcement, and that they've all gone digital, I don't really understand what could be really interesting to listen to on a scanner radio. And basically, I'm about to throw it away. What is there that I could listen to that would be interesting? And that is all dependent on one major thing. And it's, what do you like, basically? One of the things that is for sure, I have the same question from a friend of mine that I went to school with. And that guy just looked at me and said, look, Montreal police is encrypted now. I don't see what could be interesting to listen to on the scanner radio. And he's almost in the mode, if you want it, I'm going to give you it. And I understand that there are some people that are interested in an aspect of radio, and a lot of scanner buffs. One of the things they wanted to listen to when they bought their scanners is the cops. They wanted to listen to local police, law enforcement of all sorts, and that is kind of taken away by more and more encryption in the bands. So if you don't have that, of course, if you've never done anything else, because that's what I see from my friend. Basically, I see that he's listened to the cops, nothing else. He barely knows or doesn't really know what to listen to because he's not really scanned. His interest was, I want to know what's the frequency for the police, and that's it. And he's never really scanned around the bands. So there's no interest there, and it is kind of a personal thing. It all depends on your interest. I'm interested in all aspects of radio. So basically, the interest that you have in life will dictate maybe a little bit the interest that you will have with the radio. So what do you like? There's a lot of things. Here in Montreal, and I don't know where you live, there are probably a lot of things. There's railroads, there's aircraft, amateur radio bands, there's probably tons of communications that you can hear. And you gotta have an open mind, not being a closed mind of all I want to listen to is the cops, and now the cops are away, they're encrypted. It's not interesting. And even when even when some of these get encrypted, okay, like here, I can't listen to the police. The only police that I can listen to here in Montreal is the provincial police, because their encryption system is so crappy that half of the time they don't even use it because it doesn't work well. So a lot of the comms from the provincial police are out in the open. So I still have that. But Montreal's police is now encrypted, and the GRC, the police, Canadian police, has always been encrypted for as long as I remember. So I've turned away to other things because I'm interested, maybe that's the difference. I'm interested in, I love radio. I'm not stuck with a mind of being just one thing that I want to listen to. It's like somebody buying a shortwave radio and telling me that all I want to listen to is Radio Romania, and I don't care about the other shortwave stations. Well, okay, if Radio Romania goes away someday, then what? You're going to throw away your radio? You got to be open-minded in thinking that there's a lot of stuff to monitor. And you got to go through it. And you know what? Even if you don't listen to the police because it's encrypted, one of the things you got to remember is that all the signals that you hear, I don't know, all sorts of companies with, talking to each other. Of course, companies in day-to-day life, like delivery trucks and stuff like that, ain't the most interesting listening. But you know what? That can become interesting when the weather goes bad. One thing that you can do is, if the weather goes bad, strong thunderstorms, tornadoes, hurricanes, I can tell you that listening to these frequencies where you have delivery trucks and all the companies talking, all they're talking about is how bad the weather is everywhere around you. And that becomes interesting. I remember last winter when we had the big ice storm. You know what? It was amazing. Not just listening to local frequencies, but listening to, there was a special net on amateur radio for the weather. There was, because there's a thing called Canwarn here in Quebec and in Canada. There's a lot of, I stumbled upon a lot of companies that have people on the road stuck in that ice storm and having problems, and just discussing how bad the weather was everywhere and how slippery it was everywhere. And you know what? Even something that might seem uninteresting can suddenly become very interesting, simply because something goes, on the weather. So there's, you must have railroads around you. Why not, have fun listening and checking out the railroads around you and listening to train communications. Of course, there are some stuff around you like baby monitors and everything. Not always very interesting, but sometimes it is. Sometimes, you're in the middle of a fight or something. It all comes down to what are you interested. And the more you learn and the more you see that there are a lot of things. One of my major interests in listening to the VHF, UHF spectrum today, amateur radio satellites. I find it just so cool to hear signals from space. It's just great. Once again, it all depends on you. If you're saying, well, all that I'm talking now is uninteresting, well, sell your scanner. I mean, maybe that's not the hobby for you. But I have a lot of difficulty understanding that, because even though there's maybe a less stuff to listen to, there's still a lot on the VHF and UHF range. And what I would say that you should do, you know what? Take your scanner. I don't know what model you have, but all scanners, you can just, scan all the frequency ranges and just go through all the VHF and UHF frequencies. And do at least, I'd say, 10 scans of the bands in the next month. And you will be surprised at maybe what you can hear. You will maybe be intrigued by some signals where you're going to say, What is that? What could that be? That's another part of the interest here. Is okay, I'm hearing something, some communications on this frequency. What could that be? Where are they? There's all sorts of little things like that. So try it out, and tune everywhere. It's not. I always say the same phrase. You know that my favorite phrase that I always say. It's not because you heard nothing when you scan 3 or 4 times that there's nothing on. You know, I get that all the time with people sending me these messages saying, "Hey, there's just nothing on the 10-meter band. You know, that guy was right. I'm watching your videos, but no, there's nothing on 10 meters. Yes, there is. You're just not listening enough." And that's what makes the difference, I think, with someone that's extremely serious in his hobby of radio listening or amateur radio, and somebody that's just bought it because he wanted to listen to one thing and that's it. So, you know, try that. Listen and scan the bands, scan all the frequency ranges. You'll be surprised at what can be there. And I was about to talk about this, Radioactive, just mentioning it, but radioreference.com is a great website to learn, you know, what frequencies, what you're listening to, seeing all the different frequencies used around where you live. Check it out. Radioreference.com is a great place for that. And I think it can be very interesting, basically. So all you have to do is, you know, want to listen to. And I told you that I'm doing a show. Sorry. So, you know, it's what you do. It's really what you do and what you want. It's not always interesting for everybody. You know, I probably get a lot of looks, you know, like just listening to a Morse code signal from an amateur satellite. You know, people are just looking at me as like, what the hell? What's interesting in there? Well, because I go crazy. I'm just thinking, wow, I'm listening to a satellite that's just crossing over, just overhead. It's just cool. But that's me. You know, I'm passionate about radio. And I know that not everybody that has a radio is passionate about radio like me or a lot of the people that are following this show. You know, people are following my shows are probably as mad and crazy about the radio that I am. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So a lot of things. So, you know, tune around. You'll be surprised, and maybe you'll find some stuff that you find interesting. And of course, you'll have, you know, some new frequencies. And that's going to compensate for the loss of the law enforcement, you know, that you had. The good times of radio, the times where we could listen to almost anything, are kind of a little behind us. And but that doesn't mean there's nothing to listen to. If you take the time to learn, there's a lot to listen to. What else do we have here? Jerry's talking about the 14300 USB. 14,300 kilohertz USB maritime net also, that probably will have information on hurricane. Any more bad luck with the the cop? Well, I haven't gone back to Perry Island, so nothing on that side. And yesterday I almost went there, and I was thinking about, okay, will that bitch be there again? So, hey, lots of stuff. Melcon 1970 says lots of good stuff to monitor here in Arizona. So, you know, there is still some stuff. And, you know, there's still a few things that are lingering, you know, like baby monitors. And actually, we're going to get into that because I have a question on baby monitors, cordless phones in the questions that we have, so we're going to talk about that also. Oh, that's always something. Radioactive says, I caught a cordless phone once and they were talking about me. That was not good. Yeah, that is always a little weird. I did get a cordless phone from a neighbor once, and it was just so funny because the lady was actually talking to a family member and mentioning how weird I was because I was in the backyard all the time playing with wires. And she said, that guy is so weird. And she actually said to her family, I think it was her sister or something, I don't know, maybe he's working for, the FBI or something. And I was like just laughing my head off. It's like, yeah, it shows to know that when you're doing weird things that people aren't used to seeing, there's a lot of things that they think. That was so funny. Some of the things on cordless phones I heard was like once there was this guy that had his friend calls, and his friend tells him, hey, I've got the $500 that I owe you, so I'm gonna go and give you that this morning. So the guy says, well, I'm not here this morning, but if you want, you can leave it in the mailbox. And he's living in a little house where the mailbox ain't keyed or anything. You just you can just go in the mailbox and get it. And the guy says, oh, okay, I forgot your address. What's your address? The guy mentioned his address, which is the third or fourth house from here. And I remember I was sitting here on the balcony and I was thinking, wow, that'd be a quick $500. If I was a bad guy, I could have done that, and I got a quick $500, and nobody would know, And I remember I saw the guy go. I was doing other things, and I saw a car arrive and park. The guy went to the house, and then went back to his car. So it's like, okay, he just put the $500 in the mailbox. So shows you that it's always a little delicate, especially another one that was really interesting is every time there was this lady that lived across the street, right, really across the street from here. And every morning when her husband would go to work, she would call her lover and say, hey, the guy's, husband's gone. He can come over and we'll have sex. It's like, okay. The other thing that I've heard that was just that one was kind of weird in a way. A neighbor that lived here, the girl lived here about 10 years ago. And she had a boyfriend that worked up north at James Bay, so he was gone like for 3 months at a time. And they would have phone sex. And that was weird because, you heard the phone sex thing in the evening. And the next morning you go to the mailbox to see if you have mail, and she's just there standing. And it just gives you like another dimension, another side of, that girl that you barely know, that, you just know her name and that's it. It's just funny. I remember sitting here and eating a popsicle, and there was a girl the other side of the street that she didn't live there for very long, but she was talking to her friend, and she starts saying to her friend, hey, there's a cute guy on the other side and he's eating a popsicle. And I'm like, okay. I wonder if she knew that I was listening in. And but I wasn't sure who. And then she said, oh, I'm going to go rollerblading in half an hour. So as I was on the balcony doing something, I suddenly saw the girl in her rollerblades heading off. And I was like, oh, that's the girl I was talking on the phone. It's just funny, a funny thing. So, am I monitoring the cat today? Yeah, I did. I did see him 2 or 3 times. He's spending a lot of times. It's beautiful outside, so he's spending a lot of times outside, and it's okay. Yeah, I'm weird with wires. Radioactive. Now, if you were doing drugs in the backyard, they wouldn't think twice about it. Yep, they just ignore it, and it's like, okay. Is it frozen again? If you get too many freezes, let me know. I'm just gonna restart the stream. Just stop and restart if it does buffer. So, any Oktoberfest parties this weekend, Jill? Well, this weekend here it's Thanksgiving, and on Sunday I actually have plans to go at a party at a bar downtown with a few friends. So on Monday I probably will be probably not will be in a good mood to do any live shows or anything. I don't know. Every time I go, you know, the two friends I'm going to go with, we go out maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And for some reason, every time we always say we're not going to drink much. And it ends up that we're totally drunk every single time. And I told them when we were talking this week on the phone, you know, Sunday night, I want to take it easy. I don't want to get drunk and, you know, have hangover on Monday. And they're all like, oh yeah, me too. I know it's going to end up in a hangover on Monday. It's always like that. Milcom, you should have got to the front door first. Man, yeah, it's strange stories. But these are related to radio, so it's pretty cool. You know, interesting stories. You know what? One place that was interesting, where I used to live before I lived here, I was living right next to a pool bar, and that bar was known for, you know, illegal drugs and all sorts of things that would happen there. And I don't know how many times the cops went there when I lived there. And because the guys that were using, you know, when the cell phones were analog, of course, every drug dealer that was going there was always on the cell tower that I monitor. So as I was scanning for conversations, I don't know how many times I heard drug dealers making all sorts of things that it's like, okay, I just, you know, I'm smack in the middle of drug stuff all the time, and, you know, all sorts of dealers and all sorts of things, and it's like, okay, it's kind of, you know, interesting. And the funny thing also is I was always, when I was living there, I was, you know, maybe 50 feet from a McDonald's restaurant. And I remember one day that I didn't have a lot to do, I was monitoring their drive-through, and I was actually counting how much money they were making per hour to the drive-through, and it just made me, you know, it blew my mind. It was like, wow, McDonald's, a drive-through is really, really working. It was amazing. Oh man. Yeah, I need to write a book or, you know, make videos or something. Yep. Jay says winds are 115 miles per hour in Florida. Wow, that's a lot of wind. Oh man, that would have been something. Will I be drinking beer out of a glass boot? Oh man, I can tell you. Less is more. Yeah, oh man. Hey, take care, Milcon 1970. Have fun with your radios, and it's always fun to have you on board. So, you know, it's that, of course, was the glory days of scanner radio, and a lot of the things you could listen to were analog. And there's a lot more to listen to, and it was really, really interesting. There's still, and we're going to answer that question immediately because I think we're going to go through that one. One of the questions, of course, that I've got is, what is there that you can listen to? Let me just take the question here. I want to mention who that person is. That person is, sorry, people are texting me like crazy, and I'm wondering why. 2 new messages. Okay. I'm receiving like a million texts. Okay, so the question is from let me just go back down the list. Okay, question is from Patrick. Patrick lives in the United States in the state of Georgia. And he's asking me for good frequencies for baby monitors, cordless phones, and also what are the frequencies for the FRS, GMRS type walkie-talkies that he's seeing everywhere. So basically, what first of all, you gotta understand that cordless phones are less and less analog. A lot of cordless phones today are now all spread spectrum digital stuff, and that you can't listen to. But there are still some conversations here. I would say that if I scan for cordless frequencies, especially 900 megahertz ones, I do get 1 or 2 calls maybe, and if I listen in and scan the frequency range for a full day, maybe I'll hear 1 or 2 cordless phones in a full day. So it shows you there's not a lot of communications. But your best bet, because the most cordless phones today are either 900 megahertz. If people don't want to pay for the cordless phone, they'll have 900 megahertz ones. If they pay a little more, they'll have 2.4 gigahertz ones. So 2.4 gigahertz, you need to have a scanner that goes up to 2,400 megahertz. So you'll need something like this, because regular scanners don't go all the way there. If you have, because you don't mention what scanner you got, but I would say that you probably got a run-of-the-mill scanner that looks something like this, If you've got something like that, your best bet for cordless phones is 900 megahertz. Scan from 900 to 930 megahertz. And you should, if you have a lot of people around you, a lot of houses, you should hear something. But it might take a little time because less and less people have those. One that I was extremely surprised is I was monitoring 2.4 gigahertz on this. And I was extremely surprised to hear a cordless phone on 2,415 megahertz. I thought 2.4 gigahertz were all digital spectrum. It turns out that no, there are some 2.4 gigahertz analog, and that really surprised me. Another thing that might happen is if a lot of people buy 2.4 gigahertz, what they don't know is that 2.4 gigahertz is the base station is at 2.4 gigahertz. Often the handset is at 900 to the base. So that often happens that you hear only the handset, so you won't hear all, the two sides of the conversation. So there are things like that. Baby monitors you will have in 900 megahertz also. Here, if I scan 900 megahertz, I've got 2 baby monitors, one on 906.4 and another one on 926.800. And so there are 900 baby monitors, but there's quite a lot of baby monitors on 49 megahertz. So you hear a lot of them. If you tune from 49, say 49,800 to 49,999, you will probably hear some baby monitors there. They seem to be, the 49 megahertz ones seem to be quite popular, even today. And of course, you'll hear baby monitors out of there. So, and as for the FRS, GMRS walkie-talkies, they're in the UHF spectrum. And if you Google, GMRS frequencies, you'll see all the frequencies of the GMRS. Part of it is in the 457 megahertz range, and part of it is a 462 or something like that. So they're in the UHF spectrum. If you Google GMRS frequencies, you'll see all the channels in their respective frequencies. I've actually programmed a bank in my scanner with just FRS GMRS, so that if I want to scan that, I can scan it. And hello Sunburn90, nice to have you on board. One thing that I wanted to add, Mudson is saying that he remembers receiving a riot on police frequency back in the day, even when they got attacked and asked for help. One of the best ever nights that were amazing for police frequencies here in Montreal was in the 90s when the Montreal Canadiens, our hockey team, won the Stanley Cup. When they won the Stanley Cup, there was a major riot downtown Montreal because, unfortunately, for the gazillions of people that just want to have fun and celebrate, there's a handful of stupid people that just want to break everything. And it really got completely out of control. And I mean, you could hear the cops on their walkie-talkies really, being scared of what was happening, and they were in bad situations at different places. And it showed also one thing that was interesting. Because of all the communications together, it showed that the police communication system was good when there's normal activity, but when something bad like that night happened, I can tell you that they were interfering with each other, and nobody could understand nothing, because there were 3 or 4 cops on the same frequency trying to communicate, and all it did was, do some interference. There was nothing else. So that was one hell of a night. I'll always remember that night. Listening to the cops was amazing, and it with their voice and the way that everything was going, you almost, listening from your home, it's almost as if you were there and living that moment where all the riots were going. And I mean, that night really went bad. Like, I don't know how many police cars were turned over. People would, some stupid guys would just, put the fire to the cars and everything. It was bad, and it's sad because it turned what was a nice celebration into more of a kind of a horrible night, basically. So lots of stuff. Unfortunately, always bad guys everywhere. Sorry. Okay. What else do we have here? Mike Lee says we don't have Thanksgiving here in the UK, so what exactly does it mean here, Jill? Thanksgiving is basically take care, Neil. Well, you'll be watching, so it's okay, but you won't be in the chat, so nice to have you on board always. So Thanksgiving is, let's put it this way, the moment to give thanks to whatever you have and be happy and enjoy. And it's kind of a partly religious thing, and most families will have probably a turkey dinner. And actually, it's funny because I went to the grocery store today, and everywhere you go, there was turkeys on sale, and almost every place that I went to. So it's here in Canada, I don't know, here in Quebec, I don't know for the rest of Canada. Here in Quebec, Thanksgiving is not celebrated much. We've never really done anything on my side, and I don't recall having friends doing any special supper or anything. Maybe it's more of the rest of Canada maybe celebrates it more than us. I don't know, because we have differences here in Quebec, and that is one. I think that's one where we don't, we just enjoy having a day off, pretty much, and basically, so Monday's it's a holiday, day off for everyone. And the United States, they have Thanksgiving also. They have it, but they have it in November. We have it here in October. I don't know why we've never had Thanksgiving at the same times. Yeah, it's like, like Jerry says, Thanksgiving is giving thanks for a good harvest, or, just, I don't know. I don't know how many of you guys celebrate Thanksgiving, like the tradition of, the turkey and everything. Here, it must be partly something for some people, because if I look at the grocery store, the number of turkeys they had in store means, of course, somebody somewhere is celebrating. But for me, anyways, and for most people I know, it's mostly just a holiday. Yep, Halloween, between the two Thanksgiving. Halloween, which is not a holiday, but it's, a nice day where you have a lot of fun. I like Halloween. So you are watching the Wideband show, where we talk about anything about radios, and we're answering some questions from viewers. And of course, it's always fun to have everybody watching, and hopefully you're enjoying our show. From the email, we have Susan in California checking in, saying, "Hey, nice to have you live as usual." And she asks a question about a scanner that her brother has, and she says that she would be maybe interested in purchasing that scanner. It is a Radio Shack Pro 2004. She wants to know what I think about it. Is it a good model, and what she could listen to with that type of scanner. So you probably mean a realistic. I think it was a realistic Pro 2004, but it is a Radio Shack scanner. It's an old model. The 2004, I believe, is like in the late 80s, somewhere like 88, 89 maybe, that it was produced and sold. It's a good one for the time. It's one of those really good scanners from Radio Shack at the time. What you would expect to hear from that, of course, if your law enforcements are encrypted where you are, well, what you probably will hear is, also you'll be able to hear airplanes, amateur radio repeaters, all sorts of, communications from different companies that have different communications, and delivery trucks and stuff like that. It is an interesting one. You will have a few baby monitors and some, maybe a few cordless phones, stuff like that. If you got it cheap, it could be a nice little add-on, and it's a nice little radio for the time. And if it works well, why not check it out, and you'll see that you have some interesting stuff. Also, you can check, like we were saying earlier, radioreference.com. Radioreference.com, where you can get frequencies probably for your local area, and maybe find out what you're listening to. The idea is to, have fun. Just use it and start scanning the frequencies, and check out what you're going to receive, what you're going to get on the bands. And I think that's just having fun. And I mean, if you've got it cheap, I wouldn't pay $200 for a realistic Pro 2004. But say he leaves it to 25 or maybe even 50 bucks. Why not? A 2004, I'd pay maybe 40, 50 bucks for it. Yeah, surely. I think I would. And just have fun tuning around and listening to the communications that you'll hear. There's railroad. There's all sorts of things. So maybe it's it's going to be interesting. Oh, Columbus Day on Monday. So you guys in the United States, you have a Monday's day off also. In the U.S. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. Like Jerry says, it coincides with harvest time, where earlier because the harvest is earlier than southern states. Yeah, that's true. So I believe, yeah, Columbus Day. Okay, so you guys in the U.S. probably have a day off also. Well, at least we both have a day off. So okay, and let's check out what else we have here. So of course, my name is Gilles. I'm broadcasting from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we are talking about radio, and hopefully we have a lot of fun. I've been hearing a lot of comms on 14.325, by the way, for the Hurricane Net. Seems to be quite active right now. Okay, another question. We have a question from Dave. Dave is in South Texas, and he says that he's heard somewhere that he could use a SDR dongle on an Android phone. Is that true? Can I tune around with one of those cheap dongles using my Samsung Galaxy S7 phone? So you got the same phone as I have. Yes, you can. And here's the thing. You get your dongle, and of course you get your connector. So you'll have the dongle, like this RTL dongle. I have the adapter to bring it into my the correct plug on the Galaxy S7. Anyways, you've got that. If you got an S7, that little white thing, you've got it already. It's included with your phone. It was in the box. And what you need is a software. Let me just check it out here, because I forgot the name. You simply need to install the software called SDR Touch. And SDR Touch is a nice piece of software that will let you control your receiver. So basically here, if I had plugged in right now, it's 161 megahertz it shows here. So this is a great piece of software. What's nice with the Galaxy S7, you don't have to root your phone. But if you have another handset, earlier handsets, earlier Galaxy phones, or earlier running, like a Lollipop or KitKat, you have to root the phone in order for this to work. But on the Galaxy S7, you don't. It's pretty cool. What you need to do is get SDR Touch. There's a free version that has some limits. I bought mine, and there's a special driver that you install on your phone, and you are turning your phone into a scanner radio. So SDR Touch is good, and it is quite simple to use too. So basically, let me just okay, so just giving the correct link. People are a little more lost with the wideband scanner thing, because they all go to the official SWL channel to yep, it's VHF UHF chan, no L, not channel, very important. It should work. Yep. Official VHF UHF CHHME/live. Okay. So that always makes this. I want to keep it separate. You know, I for a long time I was thinking maybe I should just dump everything in the official SWL channel, but because it's a shortwave one, I kind of thought that I wanted to separate VHF, UHF stuff, scanner stuff on the other channel, and just, you know, have shortwave on the regular channel. So basically, I rather have, you know, a separate VHF UHF channel for everything. So basically, should work. It's where everybody is right now. Okay, so yep. Like we said, it turns your Android phone into a scanner radio. It's a nice little software, and you have your waterfall and everything. It's quite easy to use. If you go through the settings of the SDR Touch software, you're going to find that it's a very nice piece of software, and works really, really well with the Android phone, basically. What else do we have here? We have another check-in from email, and this is Lawrence. Lawrence says hello. He is located in the south of Portugal, and he says that he spends 3 months a year in Portugal, and then goes back to Calgary, Alberta, the rest of the year. And he's been there for a month. He's going to go back to Canada in the next few weeks, and then go back to Portugal for the winter. Love my shows, and he says that he's wondering, are there any problems in bringing scanner radios from Canada to another country? I've always been scared to bring along my scanner receivers, not knowing if I was allowed to or not. I would like to bring one of my receivers, a ICOM ICR5, with me to Portugal, but never really did it. What do you think? You got to check probably with the authorities there. I don't know. You know, there's probably nothing wrong, and you might be asked what that is. I know that for a fact, bringing scanner radios, shortwave radios, sometimes you're just going to be asked a few questions because they wonder what that is. I would not think that you're not allowed to bring such a scanner radio into Portugal, but you know what? Each country has different laws, and that's the thing. Like Jerry says, check with the customs in bringing those radios, and you'll see what they're going to answer. Show them what it is and what it does. If they say it's all cool, no problem. But they might ask some questions. If you're allowed to do so, they might ask some questions. And sometimes what I say to people that, you know, if you have the money to do it, I will often say, instead of bringing your scanner radios through customs in different countries, go visit some store over there and check out if you can buy a scanner radio in that country. And it's you know, it's already going to be there, so, and you leave it at your home there because it seems to be your home that you go regularly. So you could do something like that also. There's probably less problems that you buy a scanner radio there and bring it in Canada than having a scanner radio in Canada and bringing it to different countries. But you know, every country has its own rules. A lot of countries have rules on, you know, frequency spectrum, what frequency range a radio can receive. And there are also some countries that still require you to have a license to own such a radio. So check with authorities over there if you need any special permit or anything, because there are countries that require you to have a special permit in order for you to own a radio. This used to be in Canada in the 1930s and 40s. If you would own a radio, you needed to have a special permit. And then they understood that it was kind of a little dumb, and they just, let it go. But Musan says, I remember in Greece they arrested some people from the UK for taking photographs of military airplane. So, wow, that shows you got to be careful. When you go into another country, you got to be really, really careful. Something that might be, a non-issue here can suddenly become a major issue in another country. And, of course, there are countries that are worse than others for that. So, check with customs and let them know that you'd like to bring in a scanner receiver that yeah, that's why like Musan says taking a scanner would bring more problems. That's why I always say to a lot of people that want to bring any radio receivers like that to simply buy one in the country instead of bringing it through customs. It will be much less of a problem buying a scanner receiver in the country that you go to, especially if you're there for a long, long time. That's one thing. Jerry says bring an SDR, should be no problem. Yeah, even then. Hey Calvin, nice to have you on board. You did not miss Tech Guy stories, but you missed out on some juicy scanner listening things that I've heard in the past. So yeah, that's true. If you bring a USB stick like this, they'll just think that it's a USB thumb drive. They'll think that it's a USB thumb drive. They won't even suspect that might be a radio. But I don't know. I would be very, very careful. I would if you're there all the time and you can leave the radio over there. What I would do personally, rather than risk anything, I would go to Portugal and find a radio store there. Because there must be a radio store, or go on eBay and buy something that you get delivered in where you live, and basically that's going to be less of a problem than bringing radios, especially a scanner radio. Shortwave radio maybe, but a scanner radio, I'm going to say. That's delicate. I'm not sure I would go. I wouldn't even go in the United States with a scanner radio. I'm not sure I would bring my R20 to the United States. Especially with the fact that my R20 receives frequency ranges that are not allowed by the laws in there. So, I wouldn't even bring that in the US. So, what I would do if I'd go to the US for a long time, for a good amount of time, I'd go into a radio store. Once I'm in the US, I would go to a radio store and buy a radio there and just listen with that radio. But I wouldn't, I don't know, it's delicate. There's amateur radio operators that go across the border all the time and, bring amateur radio gear, but it's delicate. I gotta say, going to another country with a scanner radio, I think it's rather delicate. It's one of those things that I'm not sure I would like or I would do. Even even if it's a brief period of time, you know, I would include that radio buying as part of the total amount that I'm spending on a vacation. You know, okay, I'm gonna go to Russia. You know, I'm not gonna bring a scanner radio with me in Russia. I'll include that in the total amount that I'm gonna spend. And if I see a radio store in Moscow that sells a scanner radio, I'll buy it there, and at the least, I'll just leave it there and you know, give it to someone or anything. And I would not cross borders with a scanner radio. I think that in the U.S., I would think that the way the laws are made in the U.S., if I go in the U.S. with my R20, which is unblocked, so it receives ranges that the law prohibits, they would probably tell me that I would need to leave it there and get it back when I come back to Canada. That's pretty much what I would think. I don't, you know, if the border, you know, this is always depending, like Jerry says, it depends on the border guard. You can have a border guard that doesn't care and says, yeah, it's okay. And another one that's just going to go crazy because you got a scanner radio with you. It really depends on who you find. But I would think that possession of a radio that receives frequencies that are not allowed by law is probably a problem in the United States. You know, I don't want to be too bad, guys, but you guys in the U.S. are going nuts with all of that. It's, you know, I remember the times when you just took your car, decided that, hey, I want to go to Plattsburgh, New York today. And you would just cross and go to Plattsburgh, New York, have fun, and come back. Now it's just crazy. So, yeah, I'd go to the border guard and say, hey, he's the guy in Canada that's doing these shows, and he's promoting bad stuff with that. Oh, man. One thing for sure, I would not bring my R20 in the US. I would not. I would not take that risk. I remember in the times that things were much cooler, in the 90s, going to Burlington, Vermont with my brother. And I bought a shortwave radio in the Radio Shack store over there because that model was not in Canada. And I remember that the only time that I brought over a shortwave radio from the US to Canada, and it was just a shortwave radio, I got a female border guard when I came back. Me and my brother spent at least 8 hours there. They looked everywhere in the car. They asked me at least 20 times, what's that? It's a shortwave radio that I bought at Radio Shack. Here's the bill. Now I can show you. You want to hear Radio Romania? I'm going to tune it in. She just was sure that we did something wrong. It was incredible. And, you know, that experience told me one thing. The hell with bringing radios across the border. It's too complicated. And especially if the border guard doesn't have an idea what that is, you're in deeper trouble. You're going to stay there for days. I mean, that was something. I remember we got back into the car, me and my brother, and I looked at my brother and I was like, man, I'm never buying anything in the United States and bringing it back through the border. It's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Yeah, censored border guard. Yep. You know, 2 times that we had problems coming back from the U.S. through the border, and both, I'm sorry, but both times it was a woman. Both times. Every time it was a man, was always like, cool guys, welcome back, no problems. But every time it was a woman. Man, the second time my brother had two sets of golf clubs in the trunk, and we're coming back. Once again, we went to I don't remember. We went like to Plattsburgh or Burlington again, or something like that. Oh, we went to Ausable Chasm, and because we wanted to see that, and we come back, and my brother plays golf with his wife, so he's got two sets of golf, and so when we come back, she looks at us and she says, "Where are you coming from?" We went to Ausable Chasm. Okay, what were you doing there? Well, what the hell do you think I'm doing at Ausable Chasm? You know, it's like, I'm visiting, man. It's like, so, and we're like, well, we went to visit Ausable Chasm. We want to see, never been there. And she looks at us and she says, okay, park there. Every time they say park there, it's like, okay, bad news. Park there. Park, open the trunk. She asks us, open the trunk. She opens the trunk. We open the trunk. Two sets of golf. Immediately, she's like, two sets of golfs? Yeah. And she looks and she's like, well, that's not your set. That's a woman's set. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So, I don't play golf. We didn't go play golf. These are this golf. So, they separated us. And first thing, she asked my brother who the golf sets belong to. And then she asked me the same question to see if we had the same answer. And of course, one is for my brother and the other one's for his wife. She probably looked at the golf clubs for an hour, trying to find serial numbers and trying to match serial numbers, or I don't know. It's like, what, did some kind of murderer kill everybody with a golf club or something? Man, that was just so annoying. And it's like, when she, you could see that she wanted to find some little loophole where we would be in trouble or something. And you know what? That's the funny thing, because every time we went to the U.S., the U.S. border guards never gave us any problems. It was always the stupid damn Canadian border guards that were the problems when they were women. It's like, what the hell? We're coming back to Canada. What the hell you want? Oh, man. I remember the second time with that golf club, I was looking at my brother. It's like, man, next time I go to the U.S., I want to stay there. Who cares? I don't want to come back through this border thing again. Just incredible. Muson says, before the post office never asked you where you were sending a parcel, now they do. What is one going to say the truth if it is something illegal? Yeah, right. Oh yeah, absolutely, Jerry. You know what? She almost did. On the first time with the radio, she almost did. She was looking at maybe starting to disassemble the car. And you know what, Muson? That's always what made me very interesting. Is that I always thought if I would have a problem in going to the U.S. would be the U.S. border guards. And you know what? Every time I went to the U.S., the U.S. border guards were always cool. They asked us where we were going, what we were gonna do. No problem. But both times when it was really a problem, it was always the Canadian border when we came back. And always a woman. And I have another case with a woman, with my parents. My parents were like 60 years old, and they went to Vermont because, here in Montreal, especially when the dollar is very high, Everybody wants to go to Plattsburgh, Vermont, or Plattsburgh, New York. Sorry, Plattsburgh, New York, or Burlington, Vermont, because it's close. Doesn't take a lot of time, and when the dollar's high, for a long time, now maybe not today, but for a long time, things were less expensive in the U.S. And my parents were 60 years old, and they came back from the U.S. and they had to stay there for like 5 or 6 hours because the border guard, which was a woman again, was stubborn and wanted to check every little part of the car to make sure they don't bring back some illegal stuff. And I remember thinking, man, if one thing my parents don't have at all, the profile of that old couple that comes back from, some kind of drug deal or whatever. It was just crazy. Just crazy. And that always surprised me, that it was easier to just go in the US than to come back to Canada. And I was like, what the hell? Yeah. One thing that I don't know if you guys know, but in Canada, we now have a law that if I go to the US with my phone and I come back to Canada, the border guard can ask me to unlock my phone to see inside my stuff, my photos, everything, and I cannot refuse. And that's always something that I had a lot of problem with. I always thought that in Canada we are pretty free in general, and that we don't have stupid morons doing stuff. But I got to say that law that they passed, that I have to. If I refuse to give the PIN or unlock the phone, I will be detained. And that's Canadian law. And I mean, for some reason, I kind of don't see Canada in there. Canada's always been a peaceful nation. It's like, for some reason, that law, I have a lot of problems with. So, but most of the time, when I came back from Canada and the border guards were guys, they asked questions, and it weren't, I don't know, I went to the US maybe 20 times. And apart from 2 times, that was a woman, 18 other times, didn't ask nothing. Hey, where are you from? Plattsburgh. What you been doing? We went browsing and seeing if there's anything for shopping. And didn't ask much in general. Most of the times it was okay. So, but I can tell you one thing. That law that you have to give your PIN, and they are allowed to, like I always said to everybody, and I think I said it in one of my hangouts, if I ever go to the US and I have my phone with me, I always told everybody, I'm going to take naked pictures of myself, and when I come back, if they want to have the PIN to see what's in my phone, well, go ahead, look at the pictures. Hope you enjoy. Wow, Jerry says the border guard can open your phone and can transfer all your search info to their customs website. Happened to me once. They can access your phone info afterwards somehow. That, you know what? That is something that I have a lot of problem with. I'm surprised that nobody went to court against that practice, because for me it seems that it's a lack of privacy, and that I should not have to give my PIN or unlock my phone for any reasons. I can tell you that this. Come on, Jerry. Do you see Canada in that measure? I don't see Canada. I can't understand Canada having such a measure today. Of course, that comes from our fantastic conservative government that we had before. But man, that is something. Okay. Okay, my ranting is done. You are watching the Wideband radio hangout. Man, I can't see anything. I got my like 100 watt spot there in case it gets too dark. And when I'm looking at the camera, I'm looking at the spots, so I'm seeing spots everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. They were looking for child porn on the phone. Yeah, right. I don't know. This is, okay, they're coming to get me. See, guys? That's what you get for, bashing the customs and the law enforcement. They're coming to get me. Okay, so, it's there are a few things like that it's just incredible. Like Mike Lee says, my God, who makes these laws up? Yeah, crazy people make these laws up. You know what? One thing that man, 2 cars to get me. They're sending 2 cars to get me. You know what? The problem with that is I understand that for that with terrorist acts that happened in 9/11, things are getting more complex, and it's understandable. But I do not believe that such laws will prevent anything from happening. So, I don't know. Hello there, Michael Plays. Next time, simply hide somewhere your smartphone and take old Nokia. Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, that would be nice. I'm gonna bring my old Nokia phone. Well, we have. Okay, no, I shouldn't say that. I'm not gonna say what I was about to say. That was not a good idea. But I'll put it in the chat though. Okay, so what else do we have? Let's just check it out. Yeah, well, I didn't have a beard. Back then, I didn't have any beard at all, I have problem. Look, I'm 47 and my beard looks like, I don't know. It just grows all crooked. It's like, I don't have a beard, really. So, back then I didn't have a beard. Man. Okay. What else do we have here? Let me just check here. What else do we have here? Just checking out a little bit if I've missed anything on the Mad Radio DX or Muzon has. My first proper one, his first proper scanner was a Yapiteru MVT 7100, and still have one to this day. Very sensitive and recommended. Yeah, it looks like a very, very good one. And Danny Shortwave and Radio DX did say that, yes, 3-day weekend for the US also. It's Columbus Day. Thanks for the answer. And sorry if I'm not checking both. No, I can't multitask the chats. And Danny Shortwave says, my second time crossing Canada, I was sent back because of a dismissed arrest that happened 20 years ago. It was a disorderly conduct arrest. I was told that if I try to cross again, and I will be banned. You know what? I've been arrested when I was 19 years old. And I do believe that if I go to the United States, I could be refused entry because of that. And it's, for one of those really stupid things that you do when you're 18 or 19 years old. I'm not going to say what, but I mean, it's there's a limit to where, people can be stupid about what happens in your life. And when I was arrested when I was 19, they didn't think my prints or anything. I wasn't serious enough. And so people tell me, you should get yourself a, what's it called? To remove your your arrest information. Your in French it's called a pardon. In English it's I don't remember the term. Basically, I always refuse to do this because logically, if you didn't have your prints taken when you got arrested, I can't accept that you want to have my prints to forget that I was arrested. And for that reason, I've never asked to be forgiven for this, and I will never. I'm sorry, maybe I'm stubborn, but I cannot accept to be fingerprinted in order for me to get out of that. And if that means that I can't go to the US anymore or something like that, well, what do you want? That's life. That's life. I'll never go back. I'll never go to the US. But, sad, but true. Ah, man. Jerry says, Harper made a criminal code twice the size. Lots of computer and anti-terrorist laws that can be used against you. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, I can be, if I go to the US, I've never, I've never, what happened is that when I went to the US with my brother and some friends, it was before 9/11, and they would not check anything. So even though I had been arrested when I was 19, they had never checked anything. So I went to the US, I don't know how many times. But when they started to get things a little heavier and now they're checking everything, now, you know what, I've never been to the US since then. And maybe they would turn me back. I would say they would turn me back. Jerry says, I got pulled in on the state side once. They asked me 20 times if my name was Bob and where I worked and lived. They thought I was someone else. It was yeah. The mail guard came, counter, looked at the pic and said, not him. You know, that is kind of sad. You know, it's sad because what is the most idiot about all these laws is the fact that they prevent honest people that just don't want to do any trouble. They just want to go visit another country. They just want to have fun seeing something else from going. And like I said, I don't think it's going to stop any terrorists from doing anything. I'm going to tell you that. I'm much more scared. I'm going to say one thing. I'm much more scared of the people already in the country that could do bad stuff than any other people from another country that would come here to do bad stuff. Because that's pretty much what's happening. You know? 9/11 is people that were already in the US. And they even took, lessons to fly a plane in Florida. I'm not sure that would have changed much. So, yeah, 3 hours wasted. You know, it's sad because after that, you have second thoughts about should I go to the US or should I go to another country or do things. It's sad. It's sad, and there's a lot of idiot stuff in there. And of course, unfortunately, a lot of idiot law enforcement that just drives you crazy. Okay, you're watching the Wideband Hangout. This is not Friday in Law and how to go through customs when you got arrested, but more like radio and radio stuff. Okay, let's check the email, see if there's any check-ins. No more chickens there. Not chickens, but check-ins. And let's continue with the questions. question from a gentleman called William, and he says, I have installed a disc cone on my Realistic Pro 2025 scanner. What he says is, since I've installed an antenna, I've seen overloading everywhere, and I'm going crazy. Is it possible that my receiver is overloaded by either a very strong local signal, or that it's just not a good receiver to put such an antenna on? Unfortunately, many scanner receivers are not very good at handling strong signals, and one of the biggest problems, and I have it here, by the way, less now, but I had it worse before. Where I live, okay, to give you guys an idea, the next street right next to me, there's a big building from Bell Canada that has all sorts of comm antennas on top. And on the other side of the street, not even 2 minutes from here, it used to be Urgence Santé, which is the ambulance, and they had tons of antennas on top also. And when I moved here, I noticed that my scanners that worked fine started behaving bizarrely and being insensitive and having all sorts of breakthrough of signals everywhere. And that's where I started looking around, and I noticed, okay, these guys are transmitting from these buildings that are really close to me, and that is creating hell on my radios. Unfortunately, some receivers are worse than others. And if I'm not mistaken, I remember seeing, I think it was on the Monitoring Times, an article about the Realistic 20 or the Radio Shack 2025 scanner, and that it was a great radio, but it couldn't handle a outdoor antenna. And many scanner radios cannot. I got to say that I can't. There's no way I can put a outdoor antenna on, like a disc cone on this thing. The ICOM R20, this is going to overload like hell. It already overloads with just this. So, this would be a receiver that's impossible. So, yes, you have to be careful, and you have to buy good receivers. Not that the 2025 is no good. That's not what I mean. But some receivers, you sometimes need to pay more. That's why I enjoy my ICOM ICR 8500. It's an expensive radio, but even when there was all these strong signals, and with my outdoor antenna, the 8500 does not overload. Never did, and that is an amazing thing. But unfortunately, overloading on scanners is awful, and for most receivers, even the portable ones. Portable scanners like these have never been designed to have outdoor antennas unless you live in a very, very isolated area. Because these were made to be so sensitive to work well with just the antenna that's enclosed with them. So they were thought in, okay, these are going to be portable, so we're going to make them extra sensitive, and the antenna that they have in the portable is going to be okay. But once you put an outdoor antenna on these, forget it. You are not going to have a good experience, especially if you live in a big city, unfortunately. So it is possible. It is possible that really that it doesn't work well. Most receivers, a lot of receivers, and unfortunately, the quality of reception of most receivers goes with the money spent on the receivers. And it does happen quite often that receivers will be overloaded overloaded most of the time. So, you know. Mike Lee says, Jill, I recently bought a TTI TSC 100RA scanner, 66-174, no brakes with the new 8.33 kHz spacing. Pickup is amazing for its own antenna. Nice, nice. Newzone was a World of Warcraft nerd because of your beard. Okay. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of receivers cannot accept outdoor antennas. You know, sometimes they do say of that, well, you could put an outboard antenna, but what these manuals of these radios don't say is that, yeah, if you put an outdoor antenna, you might overload the receiver, and it's not going to be a good experience. Muzone says portable scanners are preamped, from what I know. That's why putting a more powerful antenna results in overload. Yep, and they are not. The electronics are not designed to cope with such huge signals. You know, Richard Cook says his shortwave PL660 overloads on China radio and occasionally on Romania. So, you know, these receivers, they're so sensitive. Just with the telescopic antenna or the rubber duck antenna, putting more than that can sometimes overload the radios. Newzone says my Jupiteru suffers badly with long wire, so a discount would be worse. You know, my R20, I've put the R20 on my long wire, my sloper antenna, just to see if I could get good reception of shortwave. And all I can say is that there's like a mishmash. It is as if all the signals that are on shortwave right now are creating some kind of a mishmash background noise level in the radio. And it's just, forget it. There's nothing you can do. You know, I have several portable shortwave radios that, forget it. If you put a long wire on them, they're going to overload like crazy. My Sangean ATS 505, many like Texan PL600, horrible. Texan PL600 on a long wire is bad. The 680 is surprising, but the 600 is bad. So Richard says, I don't know why when I go into medium wave on my PL660, my laptop causes interference. When I go away from my laptop, the interference goes. Yep, you know, that is caused by oscillators. You know, in your laptop, the different circuitry has different frequencies of function. And what happens is that these frequencies, these are, you know, you got to think that when there's an oscillator inside a circuit, an oscillator is kind of a transmitter. If it oscillates at, 1 megahertz, well, any device that receives 1 megahertz will receive some kind of buzz or problem. So it's simply that your laptop creates noise on that range of frequencies for medium wave, maybe not on short wave. And of course, if you go away, you're getting away from the transmitter. All computers are radio transmitters of different frequencies. And the fact that there's also harmonics and everything, that's the noise that we have from our different computers and from the power supplies. And, of course, if you get away from that, if you get away from the computers, it gets better. That's why often a radio and computers together don't work very well, I gotta say. Danny Shortwave Radio DX says, I have a Grundig Satellite 750. It has two BNC external antenna connections for 50 ohms and also have a wire connector for 500 ohms. Looks like a speaker wire connector. If I have both connected, would I have my wire antenna connected to the 500 ohms, and CB whip connected to 50. Yeah, you're here. Yeah, that's it. That's correct. You know, the 500 ohms, like, and many receivers, you know, sometimes it doesn't say 500, it says IZ. 500 ohms is for wire. So if you have a wire antenna, that's where it goes, because any long wire antenna is a very high impedance. So it matches better. And of course, like a CB antenna would go into the 50 ohms or stuff like that. That would be good. Mike Lee says also lots of switch mode power supplies for laptops can be a noise pain. Yep. You know, switching power supplies are horrible. I can tell you that. Uncle Place says, I never had problem with my unit in EZ33 XLT. Also, if I connect my CB radio antenna with an adapter. Well, that, you know, some receivers are better than others. Even just using the receiver with its built-in antenna, the rubber duck antenna or anything, some are better than others. I remember buying a Pro, if I remember well, it was a Realistic Pro 26. It was the first portable scanner that Radio Shack sold that was up to 1.3 gigahertz. And I had replaced a Pro 51 that I was using at the time with that new Pro 26. And I can tell you one thing, I really regretted my purchase. The Pro 26 was one of the worst receivers I've ever had, and the overloading was crazy. It was amazingly crazy. You know what? I had the Pro 26 for about 3 months, and then I purchased, to replace it, the trunking scanner Pro 92 here, and I sold the Pro 26. And when the guy asked me why I was selling it, all I said was, well, I got a new one. It was horrible. It was the worst. The Pro 26 was probably the worst scanner I've ever owned in all of my life. Overloading everywhere, all the time, on everything. Man, that was a bad radio. Jerry says LED streetlights are known to cause RF interference. Here we have here in Montreal, we only have the sodium lights, the regular sodium lights. So I haven't noticed anything. Oh yeah, like Calvin says, internet through the mains power line in the house has a lot of problem. Actually, I remember reading an article. There was some utility companies in the United States that wanted to push broadband internet through power lines, and on many places they had to stop because amateur radio operators went to court with the FCC, and that was backed by the ARRL, the American Radio Relay League, and they were able to stop these broadband internet through power lines because they could prove that they were causing so much interference. Basically, any amateur radio operator that lived in a place where there was broadband internet over power lines could just forget about the hobby. Noise was so high that you couldn't at all do the hobby. Yep, plasma TVs are bad. They are some of the worst. You know, I'm surprised I got a LED TV here, and I'm surprised at how little noise it produces on shortwave and radio in general. But plasma TVs are known to be very noisy, for sure. Richard says, my old power supply caused lots of interference on shortwave. My new one doesn't as much. Yeah, sometimes changing the power adapter changes everything. Me, it's the other way around. My old Toshiba had its original power supply did not make a lot of noise. And when it gave out, I bought a cheaper power supply from China to replace it. And that one is horrible. I mean, I think it's one of the worst power supplies I've seen for noise ever. So, Yeah, I hope they won't, because if it creates too much noise again, I can tell you that. So you know, it's nice to see that at least in those cases with the American Radio Relay League, they were able to go to court and stop these companies from, you know, putting broadband internet stuff over there, because I mean, you know, it's sad. Just think about it. Your main hobby, say your main hobby is shortwave radio or amateur radio, and because of some decision, they change something, and now you're blanketed with noise, and your hobby just ain't fun anymore. It's a bummer, and you know, I do think that we should not have to live through that. I do think that, you know, RF noise laws should be much stricter, and the amount of noise that you're allowed to generate with devices. If we would have done things right from the start with very strict laws, maybe we wouldn't even talk about noise that much today. It's really sad. So, you know. Mike Lee says plasma TV should all be shot. Yeah, well, you know, the biggest problem, the biggest problem, the biggest problem with you know, these devices, that the people that buy them, they have no idea. You know, your neighbor, if your neighbor buys a TV that's creating hell on your radios, you know, one thing for sure is that there's you know, it's not their fault. They don't know anything. They don't know your hobby. They don't know that it causes interference. It's not their fault, you know. It's the problem of laws that are too generous on what you are allowed to go through and let through as interference. And unfortunately, the hobbies that we have, especially if we enjoy low frequency stuff like shortwave and medium wave and long wave, we are the most affected by those. You know, as you go higher and higher in the frequency range, you notice that there's less and less interference from around you. And these devices create too much noise, and unfortunately, people don't know, you know. Hey, K2BEW, nice to have you on board. Says that, fortunately, I think plasmas are becoming more obsolete with the better LED ones taking the market. Yep. I haven't seen a plasma sold in a store in a while now. But for the big fanatics of TV, of HD TV, a lot of them love the plasmas, though. I've got a LED one, and I can tell you the LEDs, TVs, mine is a Toshiba, and it really doesn't make a lot of noise. I don't notice, you know, sometimes you notice when you turn on the TV, you notice immediately on the radio. Mine, you turn on the TV and you have no idea. You don't notice anything at all. K2BW says grow lights are a big problem too. The ARRL got either Home Depot or Lowe's to stop selling one specific kind of that is violation of the FCC. You know, that's the other thing, is that you have to think about, you know, that I'm sure there are tons of devices that are sold today that violate the rules of how much noise it can transmit. But come on, nobody's checking that, and nobody's really doing anything about it. And that's sad too. Mike Lee, have you ever sold a radio, then after you thought to yourself, I wish to God I never got rid of it? Oh, you want to talk about radios I've got rid of that I should never have got rid of? I was thinking, for some reason, I was thinking about that today, this morning. One is a realistic Radio Shack DX302 shortwave radio. I sold that for 75 bucks to somebody that wanted to try shortwave. And today I just wish I wouldn't have sold that DX302. A Panasonic RFB 300 that actually it was a good radio, and I got it free from somebody. And if I would have kept it and never said anything, I would still have it today, because they never asked for the radio back. And so I would keep it, and I was thinking, well, if they ask for the radio, I'll give it back. And they never did ask. And one day, I went there and I was like, "Oh, I got your radio. You want me to bring it back?" And the response was like, "Well, if you want," but I could see that it was not a priority. It wasn't important. But because it wasn't mine, I was like, "Well, I'm going to give them back the radio," And I did like that radio a lot, but I gave them back the radio. And the worst is that about a month after I gave the radio back, they had a fire and everything burned down, including the radio. And I remember I was thinking, God, I should have kept the radio. It would still be here. It would not have gotten into a fire. And they didn't seem to care anyways. You know what? They didn't care. They would never have asked the radio back. It was just me that, I wanted to be nice. It was like, well, it's your radio. It's not mine. But I should have kept it. And also a scanner radio that I regret, the Realistic Pro 51. One of the best portable scanner I've seen from Radio Shack, which was sensitive. It didn't overload anywhere. It was a great radio. So I've got a few. And man, but of all that, my DX302. Oh, Mike Lee, you're lucky. Your DX302. Keep that. I had my DX302 in I started listening to shortwave in 1982 with the Realistic DX100. And I got the DX302 in 1984 at a flea market. A guy at a flea market was selling it. And so basically I had it from 1984 and was my main radio, was my main shortwave radio. The DX302 was my main shortwave radio up to 1991, and that's when I got my Kenwood R5000. And then I got the Kenwood R5000 all the way to about 2016, around 2010. And I bought in 2010, 2011, my ICOM SCR 8500 because the Kenwood had the dots problem, starting to have a lot of problems. Oh man. Danny Shortwave says that he regrets selling his Commodore 64. Yeah, Yeah, I do see DX302s go by. Actually, there was a Montreal seller, a guy here in Montreal that was selling his a DX302 for 75 bucks. I saw it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was tempted. I was like, here's my occasion to get a DX302 back. But I was a little, I thought 75 was a little steep because it's an okay radio, but it's nothing fantastic too. So I don't know. Zone says the Wellbrook has saved him from stopping DXing at home on the lower bands as the noise can sometimes be too much. Yeah, that is something that I have to check. Well, I don't think that's the case. Jerry says, I think the government is doing on purpose to create RF noise so we were less in the know with our radios. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it just has something to do with the fact that they aren't really checking the outputs of noise of devices that we buy. And also that with, here in Canada, Industry Canada, like the FCC in the United States, there's like nobody. Here in Canada, I think there's 2 guys at Industry Canada for the whole of Canada that checks for noise and interference and complaints from people. They just don't have the power anymore to do anything. And, companies are using that also because, think about it, if a company makes a TV and it has to not create more than a certain amount of noise, that means they have to shield it more. That means they have to put more money into the device, and they don't want that. They want to sell you the TV the cheapest price possible, and so they don't want to add money that would make that TV $50 more expensive. We as hobbyists would like that. I would pay $100 more for a TV that is certified not doing any RF interference into my devices. But in the market of today, if $100 can make a difference from you sell tons of that TV or you don't sell any of that TV. So that's the problem. Muzon says it would be funny if a new electrical device released to the greater general public caused URM to DAB radios. You know what? What would maybe change something if interference created from our devices would wipe out the FM band, because everybody is listening to FM today. For those that listen to radio, if devices today would wipe out the FM band, maybe you would start talking a little more about it. But hey, it's wiping out the AM medium wave band. Who cares? That's pretty much what's happening. Yeah, well, you know what Richard says, a PL310 on easy tuning mode. The problem with easy tuning mode is that it requires signals of a minimum strength. And when it goes through a signal that doesn't have the minimum strength, it's not going to stop on it. Also, shortwave fades in and out. So if by chance easy tuning mode went through that frequency while the signal was dropping, it won't stop on it. It's just that because if they put it too sensitive, what's going to happen is that you'll have tons and tons of frequencies on the easy tuning mode that are just noise. That's what they don't want. So Calvin says the back kickstand of my PL680 broke a few weeks ago. New one came in just 2 weeks from Anon Co. So cool. If you break your little kickstand on the PL680, or Anon Co has a lot of parts for all sorts of the receivers that you can buy from them. So our Lafayette K200 tube radio is good. I sent you the link. Yeah, I saw that link on eBay. I don't know. I've never. I've heard Lafayette receivers were in general very good, but that could be interesting. That could be interesting. Newzone says 1986 when it was when I first got into radio. Hey, you just woke up Delta, Jerry, with that Lafayette radio. It does look very cool. It does look like a very, very nice receiver. Take care, Muzone. Always nice to have you on board. And what else do we have here? Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna check it out for that DX302. Who knows? Maybe not. So, pretty interesting. You are watching the Wideband Radio Hangout, and we are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. talking about radio in general and just having fun. Talking about radio and pretty much anything. It's the fun of these hangouts or these live shows. It's not just stuck in stone. We can talk about all sorts of subjects at the same time. And we're having a great gang on 2 chat rooms, one on the shortwavelistening.com website and one on the Digital Addictions IRC. And one on the YouTube channel now that we have a chat on the YouTube also. And we talk about anything, and we're answering questions today from viewers. Let's check it out here. Okay, question from Stanley in New York, New York. He says that he's purchased a Degen DE1103 secondhand. It seems to work fine. Now the question that he has is when he's at home in Manhattan, New York. He says that he cannot receive many signals. It seems that there's a lot of noise around. And he's wondering, is there anything that he can do? Now, he lives in a condo, and he says that he's not allowed to put outdoor antennas or anything. Yeah, that's the bad thing. That's you're in one of the worst situations possible. That's, you know, the situation where you're in a place that you cannot put any outdoor antennas, and that you're stuck in a very noisy environment, especially if your neighbors have, you know, all sorts of lighting systems that halogen lighting and all sorts of fluorescent or LED or whatever LEDs. That creates so much noise that you're in probably what is the worst situation for radio. So I would, you know, the only thing that you can do about that is, you know, take a walk to the park or something. And that's, I'm sorry, it's sad because you're in a really a situation that is extremely sad, where there's not a lot that you can do. And it's really sad because you do say in your email that when you go out of town, for example, and take a ride, you can hear all these signals. So, you know, at first you thought that the radio was broken, but it's not. It's obviously the noise around you, and you're probably in one of the worst situations there. So, you know what? I understand that it's sad, because one of the things that we want to do when we listen to shortwave is, you know, listen to our favorite signals, sitting in the living room, and, you know, all of that. But it ain't always easy for everybody to do that. So you know, I would say that what the only thing you can do about this is, you know, have rides. Take a car ride outside, out of town, or, you know, go to a park and have a listen in a park, or, you know, think about your radio experience as having fun, but outside, unfortunately. And there ain't much that we can do about it. It's really sad. That is really sad. Hey, Super 20 Dan, nice to have you on board. It says hi, Shell, from the hurricane in Florida. I hope it's not too bad. I hope it's not too bad there, and that you were safe. So really seems to be bad. 14325. I'm hearing a steady stream of action on 14325. I could try 7268, see if I can hear anything else. But 14325 amateur band, 20 meters amateur band was had a lot of activity with hurricane stuff. Hope you're safe. Michael Place says, I regret letting my ICOM IC7600 left connected to the antenna during I was traveling, and Thunderbolt hit into my main antenna and the main board was destroyed. That is sad. That is sad. We have to remember to unplug antennas. I can tell you that. Suggestions from our viewers. apart from going to the top of the Empire State Building. Calvin says if he has an attic, I could put a long wire or loop. You can try a loop, even if you don't have an attic. Maybe a loop antenna, but you can't really say that it will work or not. Calvin says he's talked all over the world from a dipole in the attic on the 11-meter band. Jerry says try a slinky antenna against the window, maybe a disc cone. You know, you're in a very, very, very difficult situation. I understand that. Oh wow, Super Dan lost his DX300 that way too. I've never had problems with Thunder doing anything to my radios. Let's hope that it won't happen to me for sure. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, question from Frank in Florida, that I hope you are okay, and that the hurricane didn't hit too much. To answer the question, we answered that question a little bit earlier. Where do I get information on the internet about frequencies for scanner listeners? Radio Reference, radioreference.com is a great website. One of the best. You'll have a lot of stuff there. Are there books in the United States? Isn't there like one calling what's the name? The book Scanning America or something like that, which is mostly for U.S. frequencies. Does that still exist? Is there still a book that you can buy with frequencies for scanner receivers in the U.S.? I believe Scanning America or something like that. There's one book, and I think it's still there, where you can maybe get frequencies for the United States. Jerry says, I disconnect my antennas every time I don't use the receiver. No lightning damage, either, knock woods. So, yeah, well, monitoring times doesn't exist anymore. We have the new one, the Spectrum Monitor now. But I don't know. It's we're really talking about, you know, books that are annual. I remember here we don't have anymore, but I remember when scanners were really popular in Canada. We had two books that we could buy that were like updated books of frequencies. That's quite interesting. No tech guy stories tonight, Calvin. For now, I'm gonna try to find some for the next hangout. But I've the only interesting stories were at the beginning of the show with the a few interesting stories on scanner stuff that I heard. Yeah, Jerry says, I miss the Radio Shack frequency books. I got a few books kicking around collecting dust. I had, I remember here in Quebec was nice. There was a French language frequency guide for the province of Quebec only. And that guide was available for maybe 10 years in the late 80s, early 90s. And what happened is that guy wanted to have frequencies, and I was listening a lot to the scanner at the time. So I would send frequencies that he can add to his book that weren't in the book for Montreal. And he had a draw every time you sent at least 10 frequencies in the book. He would draw 10 books that you get for free among all the people that send frequencies. And I remember that I think for 4 years in a row, I won a free copy of his new book every year. And I remember thinking, well, if I win that often, that means there's not a lot of people sending frequencies, I can tell you that. So, well, one thing for sure is that even old books, there's a lot of old, I would say that even 10-year-old books probably have, for VHF, UHF stuff, I wouldn't be surprised that more than 50% of the frequencies are still valid. You know, it's not like shortwave radio. A lot of the books A lot of the books were, are probably and even more than 50%, I'd say. So, so I got that guide free for 4 years, I remember. And there was another one. There was one that was for Canada that I don't remember the name, and I would buy every year, and it was like a frequency guide for each province of Canada. Radio Shack had them in stock, and that was nice. I remember buying also the books from Bill Cheeks, the guy that had the mods, the scanner mods. I love going through. You know what? I love going through that book, even with the mods for scanners that I didn't own. Just looking at the mods and how to modify different receivers. Man, I had a lot of fun with these books back then. I can tell you though. Take care, Mike Lee. It's nice to have you on board as usual. So, Super Tony Dan says the scanner was awesome during the hurricane. Lots of action and helpful info about power outage. That's exactly it. Even if you don't have law enforcement, even if you have encrypted stuff, when things go bad, like Super Tony Dan did, basically he was able to get tons of information and on what's happening thanks to a scanner radio, and that I think that just for that, owning a scanner radio is a really, really cool idea, because there's so much that you can hear and know what's happening around you. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. So okay, let's check it out here. William Helms checking in. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Hope that everything is all right in your neck of the woods with the hurricane and everything. I guess so, if you have power and everything. It's not everybody's going well with this, but hopefully that everybody's safe and sound wherever you are. And it was funny, I was looking at the track of the hurricane, and it's gonna make like a loop and go back to the Bahamas. Was like, wow, this is so weird. But don't worry, apparently it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to come back as a hurricane. Interesting phenomenon. They were explaining that while the hurricane was going through the Atlantic, because it stirred up a lot of the water, the cold water from beneath moved up to the surface. So all of the area where the hurricane went through on the water, the surface temperature of the water is dropping. So even though it's going to go back in the vicinity, because the water is going to be cooler, it's not going to rebuild as a strong hurricane. It's going to actually lose power as time goes on. So that was kind of interesting to learn, and that's pretty cool stuff. But yep, the scanner is really, really good. I mean, like Jerry says, having using a scanner radio can even save your life, maybe in such a bad situation with hurricanes and everything. I sure always use my scanner radio. I always get my scanner radio every time something weather-wise is happening. Be it a very strong thunderstorm in the summer, big snowstorm in the winter. Last time here was the ice storm that we had in the month of March. It was not the biggest ice storm ever, because the biggest ice storm ever is just amazing. It's the one we had in 1998. But it was a good one, and I mean, listening to all the different communications from different areas, and hearing accounts of well, over here it's just so icy, or hearing that truck that's calling in and saying hey, like a delivery truck that is stuck and can't move because of ice or stuff. It's kind of interesting. It puts you in the action. You have the impression that you're inside that action of what's happening basically everywhere. So it's pretty cool. A scanner radio is fun for these situations also. And like Jerry says, it's true. It can maybe save your life for some if you hear some stuff that could be helpful for you. So pretty cool. So hey guys, I'm gonna start closing down for tonight. We've been on for 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's getting a little cool outside, and also I am quite hungry. So we've gone through some of the questions, so it's pretty nice, and really nice to have you on board. Bye, Michael Plays. Nice to have you on board in Germany. It's 0:15. It's midnight 15 a.m. Take care. And take care, everyone. It was nice to have you all here for this little show. And we will be back. So the next shows, for those that wonder, we will have our Tuning the Bands hangout next week. That will be Friday, October 14th at 2100 hours UT. We will have our shortwave show on Saturday the 15th at 2000 hours UTC. So this is going to be the next radio shows. Of course, for those that wonder, on Tuesdays I do have my tech shows, 90 minutes answering your questions about technology at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 hours UTC, and Learn the Tech Show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time or 2200 hours UTC. That's on my Windows channels. So hope everybody enjoyed the show. Take care, everyone. It was nice to be here. Hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any comments, questions, everything, please feel free to send me these questions, and we'll answer them in another show. So take care, all. Have a great weekend. Have a great Columbus Day in the U.S. Have a great Thanksgiving in Canada. And wherever you are in the world, have a nice weekend. See you next week. Bye-bye.